Hi, and welcome to Matcha with Murad, where I, Murad, talk to other creatives about their process, what drives them to make their art, and anything else we find interesting along the way. So join me here every week for a new and inspiring story, and sometimes a quick heart-to-heart from yours truly. You are listening to Matcha with Murad. This week on Matcha with Murad, we talked to Alejanda Guererro, or better known as the corporate vampire. She is an incredible erotic fetish and glamour photographer and self-portraitist who is also an author and has her own book out titled Wicked Women. She also moonlights as a model, which helps her explore her craft while enjoying the different representations of herself in the eyes of others. So please welcome to the show, the corporate vampire. And as a side note, I do want to say that I know the audio is not as good in this episode as the other episodes, and that is because we used Zoom and you can definitely hear the lag in the program. So bear with us. Welcome to the show. It's so good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Again. It's been, I don't think I've talked to you since, I don't know.
That party we went at FCB, remember that fun party?
Was that like 2018 though? I feel like
you know what's funny? My husband works there now.
Really? That's awesome. That place looked really, really cool though. Like the whole building.
Yeah, except he's gone. I mean, because he got hired around the time when everything shut down last year. So he did go a couple of times to like the office, but like it's weird. It's like he had a job there and he hasn't been able to like to a cool building, but like I think he's about to go again this week to start going again because of he's vaccinated and things are kind of reopening. So
kind of going back to normal. That's awesome. He'll get to enjoy the cool building now with all the cool stuff.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, that party was awesome. But that's the last time we've seen each other, probably about 3 years ago.
That was like 2019 or 18.
I think it was 18.
Might have been 2018.
I think it was 18 because it was Christmas time, remember? And Christmas time in 19 was right before COVID hit.
I think it was 18. Yeah.
That's wild. And so we met from doing a photo shoot together for my album cover of a song that unfortunately didn't come out, but I still think I'll end up using those photos at some point because they were so cool.
Good. We had so much fun going to the Indiana Dunes. That was quite an adventure.
Yeah, the Indiana Dunes is like a totally different vibe than anywhere around Chicago. So it looked like it kind of looked like we were on the ocean. It was such a cool vibe.
It was fun.
So I'm going to start with just the most basic question. Why photography? Was there something close? I know you're an artist, so was there something artistic that came as a close second? I know you love fashion, but why did you choose photography?
Well, I was actually taking a break from school. I was at the university studying fine arts and taking a break, and I took a temporary job at a photography studio place, and I kind of like, by working in other people's, like that love for it. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start taking classes, and then I transferred, and there you go.
Yeah.
But like what I had studied in fine art kind of like went in that direction anyway, because I was studying more like kind of like time-based art, so like combining video and like a lot of the things I'm into, like just photography is an interesting medium. I don't think I would have like succeeded as much as being like a painter. I think painting is hard versus photography. You don't need to like imitate reality. You just need to understand it in a different way,
You just have to like capture it in a certain way.
Yeah.
Rather than painting, you have to actually create the whole entire thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you started with just like multi-mediums, like video, painting, like everything?
Video, painting. Yeah, when I was in school. And then like when I started doing photography, it was weird because I was kind of still like experimenting with video via photography. So I used to do like, when I started doing photography, I was still kind of like experimenting with video, with photography. So I had kind of like a setup where I would, how would I say? I would film stuff in video and then plug it to a television and then take photos of it, because I like kind of like the the texture of video and photography, but like, so that was early, or combined like having like kind of like a TV that I had hooked with an image with a person posing with it. So it was kind of like like how I started, how it
That's
started.
so cool. That's so cool. I can see like
But
that
then
vintage look.
eventually I got more, obviously less, more away from video and time-based stuff into more like actual proper photography. That's kind of what led me. I feel like discovering photography was discovering another way as an artist of like self-expression, and I just love everything about it. So it was
So it
kind of
kind of
like a
came.
natural progression. I had played actually with photography in high school, but I never thought like saw it as like, it's like this is something I could do as a career, you know?
Right. It was just kind of something you did for fun and you thought you were going to go in more of the direction of video, probably because maybe you thought you could have like more of a career in it or.
Yeah, something like that. Well, I was like very much into like um film, like kind of like art house films in my teens when I was like in my last years of high school. And I thought, I was like, well, I would want to be like a cinematographer. Then I got into school and I was like doing more like fine arts. I was like, well, I want to do like video, like time-based arts, because there was like a lot of stuff that I was interested in. This is like the 90s, right?
Mhm.
And like the end of the 90s. So like an era like early internet where everything seemed more like fascinating. Like you could think, you could see, it was like, wow, everything's going to be like video and it's going to be this excitement. And
Yeah.
then like when I took the break, I was kind of like, well, whatever. So it just went on a different progression. It's like, well, this is like another medium and I really like it, so I
Yeah.
pursued it.
I like that it kind of came naturally to you too. You didn't necessarily go looking for it. It just found you within your own
Yes,
art that you were doing.
it found me via like an accident and just kind of life.
That is so
But I didn't
cool.
see it as like something that was kind of alien or different, because I, as I said, I had played with it before when I was in high school. So like, but it didn't like appeal to me. You know, the thing was that I was always like, as a kid, I remember like another thing is, I love fashion, that I love looking at fashion magazines, and I collected them. And when I was in painting, I used to like rip images, photos that I found interesting, and try to do paintings out of them. So it's like kind of like present in a weird way. So I used to collect magazines, and I didn't really buy them for the articles. I bought them for like the photos.
The
You know,
images.
when the images, yeah, that was what always appealed to me.
That is cool. And it's weird how once you find what you love, or I guess
This is
like
pretty
you're
yummy.
good, good. Yay. That's one of my Trader Joe's is one of my favorite flavors and they're so
Oh,
easy. You just
yeah, I
throw
love
it
Trader
in.
Joe's too.
Also, like matcha at health stores is like $20 and at Trader Joe's it's like $6 for like a
I
whole
know. Have you ever
pack.
bought the one that is like it's another powdered one, like this, it's kind of like matcha latte mix?
Is it the Four Sigmatic one? The like the mushroom one?
No, no, it's not the mushroom one. It's another one. It's pretty good. I used to drink it
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, I love it. I'm drinking the Four Sigmatic one right now. It's got like healing mushrooms in it. So that one's really good
Mm.
too. And it's in a powder. They come in single packs and you just throw them in.
Is it? I think that's the one you sent me.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have the Four Sigmatic, you don't have the Trader Joe's one. Got it.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
can't taste the mushroom in it either. So it's really, I like
No.
it a lot. I've
No,
been
it's
putting it,
it's
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I've been putting it with my coffee. So I'll make espresso from my Nespresso machine, and then I'll put my milk in a milk frother and throw my matcha in the milk frother. And then I have green foam and I put it on top of
wow.
my coffee. And I thought I thought it would like super over caffeinate me, but there's a chemical in green tea that keeps you from getting anxious. So it actually keeps me from getting like
Really?
the coffee jitters because I get jittery from coffee if I don't eat enough and
I don't
stuff.
drink coffee. I have like anxiety, and coffee does not
Me
agree with me. And
too.
I drink tea, but I have like also like, it's like I can't have, like, I love black tea, and I can't have black tea in the afternoon. I could only like do like once if I do two, like president.
Black tea
But
is
green
a
tea
little
is
too
more
much.
my,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Coffee and black tea can make me like super over caffeinated. And so weirdly enough, when I put matcha in my coffee, it keeps me from getting anxious. I don't know. It's super weird. But back to your art. Yeah. I love that you found it now and now you know that's like where the path you were supposed to take, but then you
Mhm.
look back through your life and you're like, wow, all of these things were leading me towards what I wanted to do and I didn't even realize it. And I've had that in a certain way where, like, of course I wanna do music, but I've been figuring out that I really like podcasting and YouTube, and it's weird because 'cause I've listened to those and watched those my whole life, never thinking I'd be the one to do them. And then as I get older, I'm like, "No, I really wanna do those with my music and, like, blend everything together." So it sounds like you've
I
had.
like that idea a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an expression medium too, and like I listen a lot to podcasts, and like there's something about somebody listening to an interesting conversation between two people, right? Where it's like, oh, you learn a lot. I often laugh. I do this while I exercise in my static bicycle. I have kind of like a Peloton, so
Oh,
I
that's
put like
awesome.
I don't do the video classes. I don't find like those classes, so I put like a video of a of like somebody that has recorded them in a bicycle in somewhere pretty, and then I'm like listening here to some nerdy podcast.
That's so smart though. I love that. The bike is a good one. You have to do it when it's like mindless acts, right? Like I do it when I'm driving. For some reason,
Oh, that too.
yeah, I can't even listen, and it's funny because I'm a musician, but when I'm driving now, I need to listen to an audiobook or a podcast. I don't really feel like listening to music. It's so weird. I don't know.
I do both, but if I'm going on like a long drive, I prefer a podcast
Me
just because
too.
my attention and like, for a while, John was living in Detroit. So I went back and forth a lot. So it's like, all right, what are we going to listen into for these 4.5 hours? So like, yeah.
Yeah, I love books. I drove like 43 hours this summer to the Outer Banks, which was all by myself, which was definitely a cool experience. But I think I went through like 4 books on my drive there because I was like, I need something to pass the time.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
so when you're on set, would you say that that is like a therapeutic thing for you? Like, would you say it's a cathartic feeling, or does it like, what is your experience when you're actually on set?
Well, I at first, like usually I tend to be kind of a little bit tense before the photos because getting sometimes everything together can be stressful. But once I'm on set and everything's going, then I'm like in a zone, right? Where I'm like kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, this is my vision and I'm gonna execute it. And then I start seeing more from like what I originally had in mind, right? Because I tend to like I'll draw like when I shot you, right? It's like, okay,
Mhm.
let's go to this place, we're gonna shoot you in this outfit. And then like as I'm posing you, I'm seeing things. So yeah, I get like in a more in like a what we call it in a mood, right?
Yeah,
You're
you
like
get in a zone. I like that.
in a zone where like I just start playing with the elements and like with my camera and seeing things, and I feel really good. Like I enjoy taking photos a lot. That's
Like, it's
but
almost like
obviously I
time
also
is.
enjoy coming home and like, ooh, what do we have here, right?
Editing them and
It's kind
making
of
them
like
beautiful.
yes, exactly. So like it's a process. That's a two-step process, but mostly I'm always very thrilled to go and do photos.
Yeah. Do you think you have a specific, because that's kind of like what I want this podcast to be about is, do you think you have a specific process with the actual photo shoot on set that makes it so successful, or do you think it is just the way you see life and the way you kind of start uh morphing the photo to look exactly how you want it while you're on set?
Well, I think the process tends to be like there's always variables, right? The variable is always going to be like, okay, I could take a good photo, but it takes a good subject, right? So sometimes I click more with certain subjects that with others, right? There's like a chemistry or like an understanding. And I found like I work with many people that there's like some people I'm like, get my ideas, like I could like kind of like direct them and they understand where I'm at and I like they know how to like pose or like that they're
Yeah.
listening to what I'm seeing with them. So like that's when it goes really good. Um, but sometimes like I've had people that don't have the same flow, so it's a little bit more work. So it's not as easy and relaxing. But generally, I tend to be like like very relaxed when I take photos. I think that because I'm not like kind of like dickish about like stuff. I tend to be like, okay, let's try this, and I try different things when I see like the more I observe a person, I feel like you come better things come out, right?
Right.
And then I always feel the same things. Like, well, I meet people. I do one time I shoot, and then I shoot them again because I feel it's like I got something cool, and I think we could work more. And like the more I do photos, like the better photos I get of a person. Like kind of knowing my subjects better, right?
That totally makes sense, and that's a great point, is it depends on you, but it also probably almost equally depends on the subject or whoever you're shooting. So I can
Yeah.
totally see how over time, if you work with the subject, you get even more comfortable with each other and you start
Yeah.
trying new things. You can obviously develop into an even
A like
greater.
a kind of like a muse photographer relationship, and I've had many of those, and
Mhm.
they work great. I know I'm kind of lazy in pursuing like shooting with different people, but I'm like, well, I know how to work with this person, what they give me and what I get out of them, and I love the stuff that I do with them. So I'm like kind of like I'm very picky with my subjects in my own personal art. One thing is like, the stuff I get hired for, and like, all right, but like because they have to fulfill a vision, and like
Mhm.
also because like I said, a photo is not only means the subject, and it's important that I find people that I find easy to work with, like that we have a good relationship and understanding in like the photos. So
Mhm. I could totally see that, yeah, and especially because that's your art, so it
yes, exactly.
of course, you're gonna be pickier about it and then want exactly what you, and then you know what you can get with each subject, so you know what you want already because 'cause you're like, "I see this person for this," that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So what about,
Yes.
like, something? Because I have modeled since I was 17, so I kind
Oh, I
of
remember seeing your photos. Great
yeah,
stuff.
thank you. You were like, "You need to post these," and I was like, "Oh, are you sure?" I remember that because
I'm
I was
like,
like
yes. I'm like, yes, you should definitely post this.
yeah,
Like,
because
those
I
are
was
great photos.
yeah, because I was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to be a musician. I'm trying not to really, like, highlight the modeling stuff," and you're like, "It can only help you. Just post them."
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that you give more dimension to somebody. They're like, oh, but you did this too. And they'll.
Yeah, because it is art. At the end of the day, it's all art. So,
It's art.
yeah. So, from modeling and from having a little bit of background in being the subject, how is it with how do you feel about capturing honesty in photos? Because I had a revelation recently where I did a photo shoot with one of my best friends, and she's an incredible photographer. It's just something that comes naturally to her too. And she's like,
Hmm.
she's like, I need honesty in your eyes. Like I don't want you to just pose. Like I need to see who you are because now you're being a musician, now you're being a person and you need that honesty. So, is it difficult for you to capture honesty or do you think, is it all
I
in the
think that I capture honesty better when I do portraits, right? When I'm like as you know, like I do glamour photography, fashion,
Mhm,
and then like other stuff like portraits and stuff. So like,
mhm.
because that's more about the person, and generally like it's about the person. So that's where you kind of like, well, I try my best to observe people and get the best out of them. But when I see something I like or like something that I feel it's them, I
Mhm.
generally, for example, for that, like as before we did the photos, I met you in person, so I got a better sense of you, what you wanted, and we talked. So like in that sense, yes. But in my art, I don't feel that my art is more like fantasy. So it doesn't
Yeah,
have like the honesty might come from like my own honesty, like what I'm expressing via the photo or not. But I
right.
don't feel that it's like the same as like trying to like because I don't think that people pose in natural life like that.
True.
Um
That's true, that's a good
that's
point.
why it's like the word of glamour, right? It's
Yeah, but
glamorous.
you're
It's
still
it's
probably bringing something out in those
Yeah,
subjects too,
of course
yeah.
I do, but I don't feel that the world of glamour has as much honesty as like the world of like just portraiture, when it's
That
like
is a
all
good
about
point.
this subject,
Right, well, that's a really good point, the world of fantasy, you're not always being yourself.
like a character, like an alter ego,
Yeah,
right? Like
you're
a
being your
model comes, like I tell you, in my world, like a model comes to shoot, and like maybe she doesn't dress like that. We style her, put her hair up, we put her as a character. But
Mhm.
there's the honesty comes obviously. Like it's not like it's not this person. It is like a version of this person, like another side, but it's not entirely the person. It's like a
Yes.
vision, like a with a subject, like an
Mhm,
actor, right? Is
mhm.
playing a character.
Yeah, I totally get that because I have to be Madison a lot of the time, and then I have to be Murad the other half of the time,
Yeah.
and to me, Murad is a really strong, powerful person. Like, a lot of my music people listen to it and they're like, I feel like a badass when I listen to this. And I'm like, that's awesome. I don't mean to do that, but it's just like kind of what comes out in my music. So I definitely am not always being like Madison when I'm performing those songs or writing those songs. It's just like my alter ego. I don't know. So
your
I
persona,
totally,
your stage persona, right?
it
It's
is.
the same kind of
It's
like
my
thing
stage
with
persona.
photos.
Yeah, and of course I am vulnerable and stuff sometimes with that, but most of the time I'm trying to be like this. I'm not trying to be, it's just I want to be this kind of like badass version of myself. So I can see how with your fantasy stuff, they want to be powerful and they want to be strong or they want to be sexy or they want to be something.
Yeah, seductive,
You can't be that all the time.
Mysterious. You can't be all that all the time, but that's what it's a photo. It's a moment in a slice of life, like a tableau. Right?
Yeah, I like that. And that's kind of like the modeling stuff more too. But so
it's the same thing as a painting, like an old painting, you didn't see scenes in normal life. This were set up like by the artist that had this vision, except that I do it with a camera.
Yes. And it still looks just as stunning as those paint. It's just, your work is so stunning. I was looking through.
Thank you.
I really liked your gallery.
Did you see my video?
No. Did you just put a video out?
Yes. I'll send you the link. So I directed a music video for this
okay, I saw
electronic
a picture
band.
of it.
Yes. If you go on the links on Instagram that I have on my bio, the video is there, like it's on YouTube. You should see it. So it was cool because this was a very exciting project for me to do because as I said that I came from like doing videos and that world has always fascinated me. And I've played with video, but not as a director, where I'm not like here I've done video like as in shoots where like, I'm taking photos, but it's like going back and forward where I'm like actually where this was like a production in the sense of like, I'm here kind of like with a script and I'm like, okay, we're going to shoot this scene. And it was very fun. It was like challenging sometimes to do because it was outside of like what I do, but I stepped in and I did what I do in photos. I just direct, but I had a cameraman and I was telling him, I'm like, I want this shot, shoot her like this, like go like this. Okay, guys, let's go this. So it's really cool. Then the editor, we had an amazing editor, put it all together with the music. It's like, oh, it's one of my favorite things I've done. Seriously, like that's exciting. And I might be doing another one for the same band. So like, it's pretty cool. But I posted some stills because of course I brought my camera to set and like I was kind of like, oh, this looks amazing. Okay, pause. I want to take a still. And one ended up being the cover for the single and it's in the album, like in the inserts, and then the one I posted. And although it's different in a way from what I normally shoot, like more erotic stuff, still like I styled a bit of it. I just had like a little bit of like a dark sensual edge. It's still me. You could sense it's me behind the video.
That is my work. So cool. Okay, so that's really cool because I've actually been discussing a similar situation with King where I just did a music video, but I tried to kind of artistically direct it myself. And because of that, I'm not really like, I do think I'm a very visual person, but I need help with artistic direction, getting that edge in there. And I saw those photos and I was like, this looks so sick. So you got to do exactly what you love doing in photo. And it's nice that you didn't have to worry about being the camera person. You just got to kind of create these images.
Do you want to see the video? We could
yes.
I send you the link. Okay.
Yes, I do want to look at it. That sounds so awesome.
Yeah, the video was pretty cool. And the song is fantastic. So like, obviously when you have something inspiring to start, I'll send it to you.
You planned all of these visuals?
Yes, I did. Well, the guy in the band, he's like an art director. So we planned this over Zoom together. Like he was like, I have this idea, and then I wrote the script, and so like we worked on it together. But like,
I might be reaching out to you for my next
his idea was like he wanted this scene with the fencers. I was like, okay, and he gave me like an outline. I'm like, all right, let me write a treatment for it. So the idea was like kind of like this tournament and like kind of tension between the two characters, and like one of it goes into this fantasy scene where she's not dressed like so much as a fencer and she starts playing dirty and like as it progresses, right? not this straightforward like fencing, and it gets kind of like stranger.
Okay, sorry. So I wanted to just watch it all before I. So you found an actress that has also fenced before?
Well, actually, the guy in the band did. He kind of like went, and so that was like a lucky find because finding an actress who fenced big
Yeah,
stuff, right?
that is crazy. Like what? Okay, that blows my mind. But that
And
is
besides that, she was very like, I loved her look. She was great. She was fantastic,
yeah,
right?
she's
Like on point.
yeah, by the end she's just like I don't know, she did such a good job. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved that.
We shot that in one day, which was a very long day. And towards the end, which was like the last scene, we were like kind of hurrying. So like we didn't do as many takes. We were like kind of like, okay, I guess, because like we had already run out the time that we had rented the studio for. So it was,
Yeah,
but it worked. It worked really good. So
I am obsessed with that. That is so cool. And
thank you.
now you're blending what you started with now your
Exactly. That's why
photography
how
again.
that came in the conversation. Yes.
That
Yes.
is so funny. So now you're just blending everything. And I'm sure by like the end of your career down the line, you'll just have a combination of like everything you've loved is just going to weirdly come together.
Yeah, like fashion, videos, and photography.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you been trying to do more fashion stuff too? I know your fantasy stuff, it's so
um,
fashionable. Like it's so
I
fashionable.
have not really. Let me think. I wouldn't. I wouldn't call it. Well, I do have like a side thing because I've been doing for pandemic stuff with like selling vintage clothing. So I guess that
Mm.
works.
Oh, that's
Obviously
cool.
photographed by me and whatnot. But I mean, that's more like catalog-y stuff than like. I mean, I still use my
Yeah.
photography skills to make it look good, but
Where
not
do
in
you
the
sell
actual
them
sense
on?
of what I used to. What?
Sorry, where do you sell them on? Your
On
vintage stuff?
Etsy,
On Etsy? Okay.
like Depop and eBay. Yeah, so because like it's been hard because of the pandemic. Obviously, like not as much work as a photographer. Things are picking
Yeah.
up. So I was kind of like, this is I love thrifting, and I'm really into collecting clothing, like vintage designer stuff. So I was like, oh,
Mhm.
why don't I try to do this as a side gig, whatnot? So it's been kind of enjoyable because I
Yeah.
was actually, when I started doing it, I was like, hey, I could put my use of my clothes for good to style it and all my shoes because the model's like my size. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah, that does.
But that's about it, not like in the sense of like like editorial or like whatnot. I think that's been, well, I've been more focused on doing like erotica. So like
Mhm.
i
Your stuff
published
has
a
looked so
book
good.
I
Okay.
published a book last year. So like my like it's like, well, this is what I'm doing more and what I'm
Mhm.
known for. So I'm like more into like selling my book and selling prints and just kind of like more focused on that than
Yeah.
in actually doing like fashion stuff.
Right. Have you seen a lot of like, has your book been doing really well and has it taught
Yeah,
you a
it
lot?
has. There was like it had a very good reception. It's been selling and it's cool. I did it via Kickstarter, right?
Okay. That's
So
cool.
the reason why we did it with a Kickstarter, this editor in let me see, might have been 2018, 2019. Oh, God, everything's like kind of
I
2018.
know.
And he explained to me why like on a Kickstarter, right? Because I've been publishing like other books but compilations with other photographers, and it's hard to get a deal to get a book on your own because like as like nobody buys books, like editorials bet on like big shot photographers. So like if you're like more like on the indie side, it's gonna be hard, right? And because books are very expensive to make. So like doing the Kickstarter was to kind of like split the cost of producing it with like the people that pre-order it, right? So it gets made. And
Mhm.
also because like I wanted the book to not be a regular book, like a very fine art book. So it's printed in Italy, the paper, everything, the quality of it is like top notch, and it would have been an expensive book. So like it's weird because we started the Kickstarter like mid-February or the 20th, or I think something like that.
Of
And then
this
it
year or
ended
last year?
last year, and then
Okay.
it ended as everything was shutting down. So it was going really well, and then it got very stressful because like, as this the world is like shutting down. So almost I was like, oh my God, it's not gonna make it. This is like what the worst luck in the world. and then it did. But I was actually supposed to go right after the Kickstarter ended, like to go print it myself in Italy, right? Like with the people that were pressing it. And then obviously like where the this area was kind of like where the outbreak happened in Italy. So like that got shut down. So everything became kind of like, okay, sending me like the proof sheets for me to approve, like back and forward, but it happened, right? Like
Yeah, that's
finally
still a
ended up coming
miracle.
out like in September. So like, yeah, I'm very grateful for it and happy. And like obviously I I feel it's a huge accomplishment having published it, right? Because
Because it's your
it's a
own book.
book of all my book. It's a book of all my work, many years. And yeah, like very happy to have it out. A lot of people, I've got like lots of love for it. Like when people started getting their pledge book, like, oh my god, I love it. And then randomly somebody would be like, oh, I saw your book here, or like I found it here, like, so that's cool.
What a
It's like
cool
spreading
feeling.
my art around the world.
Yeah, and it would have been so amazing to go to Italy and print it, but the fact that you still got it done when, like, think of how
Yes.
many people probably didn't get to finish the stuff because just bad luck.
Yeah, like it put probably for a lot of people plans on hold. So like that it happened was a major accomplishment. I actually have two more books with the same editorial plan coming up, you know.
Ah,
So hopefully by then, like I'll be able to maybe do a book tour and like events to launch it and whatever. But like I was just like, I'm like, oh my God, having it
that is
published is
amazing.
a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so amazing. I'm gonna have to I'll have to look. Do you have the links on your Instagram for it to purchase?
If you go on my website, in Instagram, there's my website. Like I have a store and it's there. You
It's
could
there?
buy.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Because I love your photography, it's
Thank
stunning. So
you.
I
You're so
need a
sweet.
book. I need a book of all of your art, like, that sounds amazing. I'll just put it
Oh,
on my coffee table when I finally get my
it's
own
a very
apartment.
cute book. The cover's like super cute.
Oh, I
So
can't
that's like,
wait.
sexy inside. It's like cute, like kind of like girly and
It
like,
invites you in, and then
sexy.
you're like,
Yeah, it
"Ooh."
invites you in and you're like, it's called Wicked Women. That's
Oh,
all.
I love
The
that.
title says it all.
Wicked women, that's so strong, I love that. So,
Yeah.
do you think there's a what is your take? So, I've had obviously some very interesting experiences shooting with male photographers in my life, some in Chicago. And what do you think it's because you shoot erotica, right? Do you think there's
Mhm.
something about you being a female photographer and you just get better results from people being
I
more comfortable around you?
I would say it's different results. I wouldn't say that is better because there's great male photographers.
Mhm.
Just different results because, like, well, as a girl, I do feel, and I get this told a lot, that girls feel more at ease, right, with me. And like, because I'm not like kind of like my shots are not misogynist. They're like, highlighting, they're more like where I come from is different. So I do get like girls tell me often this. So I guess I'm able to open a door that maybe a male cannot open in certain senses.
Right.
Um, but uh, I mean, with female models, sometimes like they're like, oh, I love shooting with women. I feel more comfortable, more at ease. Like I've had like problems with shooting with guys, or like they've told me stories that they're like, there's guys that like we call them guy with a camera, GWC. I'm like, what's that? It's like, it's like the guys that pretend they're photographers and they get a camera it's only to perv on women. So like
Yeah.
in my field, it happens quite often, right? Like,
For
and
sure,
especially because
especially what you're shooting, of course, like,
yeah.
you're gonna get
So
creepy
like
guys.
you're gonna get creepy guys. But there's other male photographers that are great. That are
Of course.
actually like, I've
Respectful.
modeled myself too. And I know many photographers, colleagues that are fantastic and they're like great professional people. But as in everything, you're always gonna find like good apples and rotten apples.
Right. That was actually my next question is, just tell me about how you got into modeling too as a photographer, because it came more after photography, right?
Precisely that, because like yeah, precisely because I knew photographers via my work, like just whatever. So they're like, oh, you want to try, maybe you be a subject. So like it started with one photographer and then led to more and more and more, when I used to like publish more of that like work, and because I would meet photographers at events like galleries and stuff like that. So like that's kind of, I would call myself, I'm not like a professional model, I'm like a photographer's model, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody that knows photographers and gets photographed by photographers that like my work, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like that. I mean, I've been paid sometimes to model whatnot, but like it's not like I never pursued it as a serious venture, more like a, and also like in modeling, it helped me understand better what the other side of the camera, right?
I was
And
just gonna say.
I sometimes like feel like it's like, oh my god, modeling is hard. People think it's like, oh, it's easy breezy. It's like, no, I've been it. Like you could be wearing something uncomfortable, be asked to hold positions that are not very comfortable, and like for example, I worked with this guy who I met in Paris many years ago, who's an amazing photographer. And the next time I was in Paris, I hit him up. It's like, oh yeah, come on over and do photos. And he put me in some very strange positions where like I was sore. My back was like kill me because we were doing this thing with like this heel that had this like wheel and then like basically to hold my leg up. So I was putting all my body weight on one leg, which if I moved, I would like broken a bone or something.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
because like it was this insane stiletto that had a wheel. So like that was pretty hard. I'd have like because like, oh my God, I torture my models with wearing all this stuff. It's like here it is like the payback, but it's not easy modeling.
It's
And you
really
could
not.
tell like how much taxing it is on your body and like holding poses and
Yeah, people who think I know so many people who just want to say they're a model so bad. And I'm
well,
like,
it's the same thing with photographers. Like they're like, oh, I'm a photographer, but like they're not.
yeah.
And the fact of the matter is like, there's actual people who are models, right? Like are good at like know their bodies, like know how to pose, they're not
Mhm.
awkward, whatever. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that are like, well, I call myself a model, but like,
Right. And there's people who that's the big thing. People who make a living. Like they're not glamorizing it. They're like, yeah, this is my job. I have to be very strict about certain things. I have to be very strict about what I eat. It's just a
yes,
fact of life.
take
They're
good care
very
of your body. Like there's all this stuff.
most of
Uh-huh.
them like really successful. I know a lot of models just from doing it a lot, and I don't know why. It's like the one career of mine that I never really wanted. But then it just kept coming back. And so I finally was just like, okay, I guess I'll do it if it's available, if it's going to offer me money because it keeps coming back. So I've met a lot of models, and the most successful ones that I've known, they don't glamorize it. They're like, and that's what I wish people understood. It's not a glamorous job.
No,
It
it's
really
you
isn't.
might be modeling for something that you don't like, that you're not comfortable wearing or doing, that you feel ridiculous or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's a job at the end of the day.
It's a job, and there's also like just kind of dark sides to it. Like I went to New York, and I have a lot of friends that model there. And so we went out for one of my friend's birthdays, and my friend was like, "Well, why don't we go like to this club where there's this club promoter who will pay us $100 to sit there and look pretty, and we can just have free drinks all night and bottle service." And so we were like,
Hmm.
"Okay." And I didn't even know that this is a whole thing. And so it's like a whole thing. Like if you go to a club and you see models all at a table, like they are paid to be there.
I didn't know
And
that.
yeah,
Wow.
they are paid to be there. Like we all got paid like $100 to be there. And it's really creepy because if you leave the table, the club promoter will like get really mad at you and yell at you. And like none of these models are actually drinking because they're there for work and they don't want to drink every night. And a lot of them, they like live in New York, they need to make a living. So they
Hmm.
do this because they get $100 a night and they don't want to be there, but they have to be. And some of them go as far as like living in the club promoters' houses. And the
Oh
club
my
promoter will
God.
have like this big apartment, right? And they'll let you live there for free if you go to the club 5 times a week. And so there's a whole dark side to modeling that people don't really talk about. That's like, that's not
Yeah, I've heard about
glamorous.
like, for example, like agency sign models that they get put in these apartments, like with
Model
a whole bunch of
houses.
people, and then they end up being kind of in a lot of debt because like they're constantly like their agency takes like a big chunk of what they make and like overcharges them for the living situation or whatever. It's like, yeah, there's like if you're a successful model at a point where you're booking a lot of work, then I guess it's worth it. but like
But if you're not, which the
not,
percentage of models that are not is insane.
and also like I feel like it leads to a lot of abuse, like, and women having like problems with their self-esteem and whatnot because they're like kind of like constantly being objectified, where it's like,
Objectified.
oh, you're not skinny enough, oh, you don't have this, you don't have that, and like, so like it creates like I feel like that's why I guess I never got into the fashion world, like the modeling. I didn't find it like knowing all that is like, it's like kind of like, I like erotica, has like more broad appeal. It's like what a model is versus like these thin real
Yes.
models, and like young, like I hate like that is like you're
Yeah, if
selling
you don't
luxury
start at like
clothes.
14, 16, you're not gonna
Exactly, but it's like teenager, like girls that are not fully grown women are selling you these clothes. So like it gives like this kind of like wrong image of like what beauty is. It's like we're all like kind of like following like these women. They're like not even like adults.
Exactly. And a lot of them have to fight super hard to not let their hormones kick in and become real women. They have to like eat less and try to keep their bodies that small. Like my roommate who was a model, she got signed at 14 and then got a lot of, shit from her agency because she just got hips. Like she has hips, And so that was a big deal. And I think it's so crazy that, and it makes sense because this is what happens to women, right? We get sold this idea of beauty and it always has to be right outside of what's attainable so that we're
Hmm.
always shooting for something to make us more beautiful. So
Yeah.
that's why I think now they have the plus size, right? Or the curvy
Hmm.
models.
Hmm.
But like
They're
I
trying to be
have
more inclusive. I do realize that I've seen a little bit more diversity in that, and that's progress. But still, like the top earners are like still like the ones
it's
that
still
look like
dark. Yeah,
traditional.
right. Because now I have friends that have plus size modeled or they've been trying to get into it. And now it's like you either have to be on the scale of like ultra skinny to the point where it looks unnatural, or you have to be a perfect curve where you can't be too big and you can't be too small, and your butt has to be big, but your waist has to be small, and you have to have a bigger chest. You know what I mean? So they have like
Hmm.
they still have strict guidelines on curvy models. And
No, that's ridiculous.
it's crazy. So I will say like there are steps in the right direction. Like Paris, I think finally just has a rule now where you have to be a certain age to model there and you can't be
Your body
a
mass
size zero. Yeah.
index. Yeah.
There's something like you can't be too skinny and you can't be too young, which is good. And I will say the average model age is getting older now. So I think
Mhm.
like the model of the year was like 32 or something this year.
That's good.
And Indian.
That's good.
So that was really good. And then I know obviously like diversity is changing. I think social media is helping because
Hmm.
if you get a big enough following on your own,
You
like
could be a model.
excuse my language, but the agency is your bitch at that point because
Yeah.
you have the audience and they're kind of banking off the fact that you have it. And
The
so
audience, yes.
yeah, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, I think it's heading in the right direction, but I love that you do something where it's not so based on, even though it's fashion, it's not so based on your size or your age or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Your
I
own
worked with
beauty.
like very curvy women and some women that were skinnier and some women that had like larger breasts and smaller,
Mhm.
and but they were all in their own sense like glamorous and erotic. But like I think that it doesn't conform to the same standards that you see like in fashion,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So like I like that in my field. But I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure, like in my field, it used to be the same thing, kind of like more like the Playboy stereotype, whatever. And like,
Yeah.
I know like a lot of women used to get, breast enhancements and whatnot.
For sure. That was I mean, think about like
There's always
the
gonna be like,
2000s.
how would you say it? Like, oh yes, the blonde, like,
Platinum blonde, double D.
it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because like a friend of mine randomly bought me for like Christmas like a Penthouse subscription, a Penthouse magazine.
That's
I've been
funny.
publishing Penthouse before, so like okay. So a Penthouse has been doing like there's some cool editorials, but like I was looking around, it's like there's still like the breast enhancements, it's still like,
Yeah.
going on. Like it's like I think it's like I'm pretty sure she look better without them, but like that's whatever. But like it becomes like kind of like a thing in that world too. Like, oh, you gotta look maybe be more voluptuous and have more of this because this is what like sells. So like
But what world is that? Because it's not really like erotica. I think erotica is so much more based on
it's
your
the
own
world of
beauty.
adult,
Okay.
yeah,
Like
like
the
penthouse is like
porn
adult
industry.
modeling, yeah, like the adult industry,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, because I know a lot of Miami models have to get, or they don't have to get, but they're encouraged to get breast augmentations and stuff
Oh
like that.
god.
Yeah, I know, just because that's the
Probably because
industry
they
down
do
there.
bikini work and like,
Right, right.
yeah.
That's just kind of the industry. So I have another question. Where did corporate vampire come from? So like how did that name come out and what like inspired that?
uh it was inspiring this movie, The Hunger. It's
Okay.
a movie from the early 80s with David Bowie and Catherine Deneuve. With they're vampires, but I like the character of Catherine Deneuve. Like she's kind of like elegant in a suit. So like that's
Mm.
where it comes like the corporate because I love suits. I actually
Mhm.
collect suits myself, like designer vintage suits. So like that's where it came from. It's like, oh, I like the idea of like this vampy like character, vamp, like dark and
Yeah.
obscure. But yet she's like dressed not as a vampire, but dressed in a suit. So
Mhm.
there you go.
That's so cool. That definitely comes through in your work too. That definitely like
Thank
shines
you.
through. That I mean, I think you've even had haven't you even had some shoots like in conference rooms and stuff like that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
you
So
go.
that
That's it.
definitely
And if you see in the cover of my book, the woman sitting in like the couch that is like a mouth, she's wearing one of my suits. She's in a suit. So like, and
Ah,
and like in the book, there's a couple of photos of women in suits. So that's the allegory to that, of my personal touch with my own collection of suits.
yeah. That's so cool. Okay, I love that name. That
I like the idea of like women in power in charge, but
yeah.
at the same time, vamp. Vamp coming from like the noir era, like
Mhm.
the femme fatale, the seductress.
Because there is a little bit of darkness
Yes,
to your
exactly. But it's not like vampires as the idea of like the vampires, more like the
yeah.
vamp.
Yeah. Would you say that's kind of your mission statement of your own personal work is women in power, like powerful
Yeah,
women?
definitely.
Yeah.
Um, that's pretty much what I like. My brand is about like empowerment through erotica, right?
Mm. Mhm.
Like I'm not a misogynist. I don't like I always like to show like women like in control,
Right.
powerful and owning their sexuality and sensuality, not like a subservient like bottom
Yeah.
feeders or anything like that. Like there's a whole world of fantasy in that. That's not who I am or what I do with my models. So like when they come to model for me, they're not gonna ever be in positions where they look weird, uncomfortable, ridiculous. That's like helpless or anything like that. If it's like
Yeah.
something like kind of like a little bit on the submissive side, it's always kind of playful, but you could always tell
Yeah.
that the person's in control, right?
Yeah, okay, that makes total sense. I love that, and
Mm-hmm.
I like your, I was looking at your galleries and I loved is it called, ho I don't know how to pronounce it, voyeur?
Voyeur.
Voyeur, okay. That
Like
one was so
voyeurism, yeah, because
yeah.
well, obviously that's more like kind of like I feel like with what I do is like kind of like I'm a paid voyeur, right? Like
Because
I'm
'cause you're
paid to
watching through
watch these scenes and whatnot. So like I feel that anything that deals with erotica has like definitely a sense of like the person, the observer walking in a
Mhm,
scene, right? So
mhm,
I wanted to, I was kind of like organizing my site some years ago. And that's how the name Wicked Women came from. Like, was like
mhm.
actually like a gallery of fetish photography. So that's my book. It's a collection of fetish photography. Instead of like saying fetish photography, it's like wicked, like,
Yeah,
um, or like more thematic. So I have like, a gallery of like more like stuff shot outside in nature. And then the voyeurism stuff where it comes like kind of like the observer, not the same as like straight like I have another one that is more like glamour oriented,
mhm,
right? Like
mhm.
just
That's
Mhm.
so cool, yeah, and so with your voyeur stuff, did you do the shoots planning on being the observer, or were they just compilations of things you got in other
No,
shoots?
those have been shots where like I'm doing a shoot and like something kind of like outside the box, kind of like in like, I'm like, oh, that would look cool like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then I'm also kind of like, this is kind of like a different like observer here for a second, and let's try that, or I try something weird where I see like more a point of view, as if I was like observing a scene, but not like entirely present in it, like
Right.
secretly glaring, or
It's a different point of view than like
it's a
being
different
the
point of view.
straight on person. That's so
Yeah.
cool. So do you feel like you have any like rituals that you do on a daily basis that make you a better creative? Like for instance, I meditate every day, and then I like do my guitar once a day. I do like my matcha tea really puts me in
I
my
spend a lot of
ritual.
time looking at photos all day, just of random stuff, like on Pinterest and Instagram. So like, and then I watch a lot of like movies. So like movies are always giving me ideas, right?
That's where that art
Like
director
give
comes
me
in.
like kind of like,
The
yes,
scene.
like scenes, like I read. So like I'm always drawing like from things that I see from everywhere, kind of.
That's cool. So you're very visual.
Yeah, I'm very visual. So like, just as they say, like writers are good writers because they read a lot. Like I watch a lot, I
Yeah.
observe a lot.
Yeah. That's so
I
cool.
have like a big collection of books, so I'm always buying like photography books. I like, like I like looking at stuff that inspires me. So.
Yeah. And it inspires you to make more work. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay. I feel like we've gone a pretty long time. So
This has been quite lovely. Good
it
chat.
really has
Good
been.
matcha.
Good matcha chat with my matcha.
And I have like my cute Scotty mug.
So cute. I love it so much. So what would you like people, you have your book, you
Mhm.
have your website with your book. What else would you like people to check out from you?
Well, it's everything. Everything is there in my book, in my Instagram, in my website. I mean, I'm selling prints now, so like if people want more out of me, they could always own my art that they could hang in their walls to decorate. I've been
That'd
doing
be so
that quite a
cool.
bit. It's fun. So that's it. They could follow me and follow my adventures and my art as it
Yeah.
keeps growing and growing.
Yeah. Do you have anything exciting coming up besides obviously your 2 new books that you're planning? Do you have any cool trips finally or
Well,
anything?
I have to finish the second book, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna be working on it quite a bit coming up now that the weather's nicer and like I'm vaccinated and ready to go back
Right.
into more normal life.
Yeah.
So that's that. And then, like as I said, I might be working on another video.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
that's pretty much
right.
it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been so nice to talk to you.
Likewise.
As always, thanks for listening to Matcha with Murad. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, review, or share this with your friends. Again, thanks for listening, and talk to you guys next week.